We are now live.
Thank you, Quinn. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's event. Please put your contact information in the chat. When we go through the event today, we will have a Q&A function, so you can add your Q&A, add your questions there. And also, please say hi in the chat. And also we have June 7th event coming up about accessing capital from PIDC, and also talking to our panelists who have been approved for a loan in the past and helped their business grow. So please watch out for that on June 7th.
All right, thank you, Arthur. My name is Chuck Stefanowski. I'm with Independence Blue Cross. On behalf of Independence Blue Cross, I'd like to welcome you to this exciting event. As Arthur mentioned, there's another event coming up that this team has worked on June 7th called Driving Business Growth in a Recovering Economy. And as Arthur mentioned, we're going to be talking with PIDC clients who share their experiences and how PIDC financing was used to help them with capital needs and to address business needs and really to seize opportunities. Both this event and the June 7th event are packed full of useful information to help your business. These events were developed as a result of a collaboration between Independence Blue Cross, AmeriHealth Caritas, PIDC, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, the Economy League of Philadelphia, and our panelists. I'd like to thank all of you for everything you do every day to make a difference in our region. It's been a true pleasure working with each of you to develop both of these events. I'd like to introduce you to Sharon Monker from AmeriHealth Caritas for a few comments.
This is such a dynamic opportunity for our suppliers in our region to connect with resources. Hi, I'm Sharon Manker. I am the manager of diverse supplier initiatives for AmeriHealth Caritas. We are happy to welcome you here for this event so that you can learn how to grow your business in this recovering economy. We've all had times and experiences where we wanted to give up in doing business, and we know that through perseverance, through education, through training, we can thrive. We are here today to help you get to that next level. This Goldman Sachs program, the resources at the Economy League and the PIDC are going to make sure that you thrive. So I'm going to turn this over to our next speaker so that we can get started and make sure that you also get the contact information and ways to connect for us in the chat. Kenyatta?
Thank you, Sharon.
No problem.
So I'm Kenyatta James. I wanted to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us a relatively nice Tuesday morning. I know that we're all busy and we all have other things that we could be tackling, but I'm really glad that you're here. We've gotten feedback from the wider business community in Philadelphia that while there's great resources out in this community, sometimes these resources are disjointed. So joint events like this, as well as joint programming, is one of the ways that we're hoping to change that so that our business community can feel supported during every stage of growth. What we do at Page is we help organizations, especially business-to-business organizations, connect and grow by getting into anchor institution supply chains. Anchor institutions are hospitals, colleges, large local corporations, and other companies that spend billions of dollars every year and are interested in finding ways to diversify their spend by focusing on local businesses, minority-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses. So we have plenty of resources to both help you get connected with these different institutions, to understand how to serve them properly, as well as a grant program to help cover some of those initial costs if you're running into certain high costs like insurance or equipment that are preventing you from doing work with these institutions. Along with inviting you to connect with me, and I'll be sharing my contact information in the chat throughout this event. I would also encourage you to join our June 7th event. I think that there's going to be a ton more resources there, especially coming from PIDC, and helping organizations understand how they can get the financing they need to grow their business. Thank you again. Welcome again. And I would like to hand things over to Fran McNeil, our moderator for today.
Thank you, Kenyatta. And I want to again thank all of our sponsors, PIDC, Independence Blue Cross, AmeriHealth Caritas, and the Economy League, represented by Paige. So Chuck led us off this morning, and he, as you see on the screen, is a Supplier Diversity Director for Independence Blue Cross. Sharon Manker, Manager of Diverse Supplier Initiatives at AmeriHealth Caritas, then shared with us her perspective and her welcome. And you just heard from Kiana James, Page Director at the Economy League. Behind the scenes, and certainly making sure that we're on track, is Arthur Jimenez, Director of Business Development at PIDC. And the entire PIDC team has been making sure that you are welcomed and all set for a great panel today. So let's take a look at the next slide, because
Before we get that, Fran, I just wanted to take a step back and because we started a little bit early.
We
so
did.
So I want to take a step back and talk about this initiative and how it came about. So Marla Hamilton, Senior Vice President of Client Engagement and Business Support, and I came together and we started talking to, I believe we started off talking to Chuck Stefanowski about how we can, his efforts with working with diverse suppliers and how we can coordinate together. And we talked more and more, and we actually talked about how the Goldman Sachs program was really tremendously helpful to a lot of our clients, not just about PIDC's business loans. It's really more about also about giving the education businesses need to help them grow and help use that capital strategically. And that's how we came together. And also we worked together closely with Kenyatta James at the Page Initiative about not just about, again, it's not just about education. It's not just about capital. It's also access to contracts, access to larger purchasing power through these institutions. So that's really just the background, how we all came together to talk about how you really need all these different types of strategies to really help your business grow. So I just want to give that backdrop and also fill up a little bit of time because we did start off a little bit early. And I will progress the slide and hand over back to you, Fran. And again, if there's any questions or if you just joined us, please enter your contact information in the chat. You should find our contact information as well in the chat. And if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function for that, okay? And we'll get to those questions towards the end of the webinar. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Arthur. And we've got a healthy list of attendees and they're joining, so welcome again. And at this time, I'd like to welcome our panelists and share with you that the individuals who are part of our panel today are not only alumni of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, and they are also PIDC clients. So joining us today is Lisa M. Robinson, founder and CEO of My Independence at Home. And Lisa was part of Cohort 21. The 10,000 Small Businesses program offers 3 cohorts per year. And so Lisa was part of Cohort 21. Next is Bridget Daniel Corbin. She is Chief Executive Officer of Wilco Electronics, and Bridget was part of Cohort 5. Joining us as well is Mia Levesque, co-founder of Yikes Incorporated, and she was with Cohort 7. And our final panelist is Michael Brown, Chief Executive Officer of ESCI 360 Incorporated, and he was part of Cohort 1. So we have a very dynamic panel, and to start us off, because I'd like you to get a sense of the story of the people that really generated businesses that grew, I'd like to ask each panelist to introduce themselves and tell us about their business and how did you grow your business in a recovering economy. And I think for those that are listening, you'll find that each of them has a very unique story. So I'm going to ask Arthur to take down the slides, and what we'll do is you then can focus on the panelists and see them as they speak. And Mia Levesque, I'd like you to start us off. Introduce yourself.
Sure thing. Thanks, Fran, and good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time on this Tuesday morning. My name is Mia Levesque. I'm co-owner and co-founder of Yikes Inc. We are a web design and development agency located in Fishtown. We are a WordPress platform agency. We do front-end, back-end design and development for websites, API integrations. So we founded our business in 1996, the very infancy of the web. We've been around for a long time. In that time, we have experienced many challenges, including several economic downturns. For us, that includes the internet bubble burst of the late 90s, the instability after 2001, and then the housing crisis in 2010, then most recently the pandemic. And as a small business in that time, we also experienced other challenges independently of that. So I'm going to try to focus a little bit more on the pandemic. That's what's fresh for everybody. So during the pandemic for us, unlike some of our colleagues in the business community, tech services were widely needed. So we, as a business, are an in-person, have an agency located in an office, which unlike many of our other agencies are fully distributed. But because we provide flex time for our employees, we were able to really pivot quickly during the pandemic. We had all the tools in place, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But we had those tools in place to be able to be flexible and pivot. And I'm going to talk about that a lot today, about that ability to pivot, the ability to be flexible with your business, and also the importance of being retrospective after a challenge. And looking at, for us, for me to shine a spotlight on what was missing during any of our challenges and to try to implement a strategy to improve those processes and our methodology so that the next challenge, the next crisis, that we're able to have more and more systems in place and to scaffold our business and continue to grow, or in the worst of times, to stabilize, so that then you can recover and grow. So I'll end there and give someone else a chance for their perspective.
Wow, Mia, I mean, fascinating that you have this history of surviving and thriving. It's almost like surfing. You were able to ride the wave, see the wave, ride the wave, and then continue on. So thanks for starting us.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's some underwater too.
I know, that
during that
underwater
time, too.
show. That's right.
Yeah.
And you're still here. So thank you. Thanks for kicking off the panel with your story. Lisa, I'd like you to go next and share your story and respond to that question: recovery in a challenging economy.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Lisa Robinson. I am the founder and CEO of My Independence at Home. We are a home care agency. We founded My Independence at Home in 2013. I still can't believe we've been around this long, but it's very exciting. What we do is provide home care for the elderly and adults with physical and intellectual developmental disabilities. So we go into the homes and help them with what we call activities of daily living. So this is bathing, dressing, meal preparation, companionship is a huge aspect as well. In terms of surviving through hard times, it was very difficult, especially in this industry. People rely on us for everything from getting up in the morning to dressing. So this is something that we had to do. So in terms of, to piggyback on what Mia said, we had to pivot. We really, really had to. With the pandemic, there were the stimulus packages, so there was caregiver shortage. So that was a challenge, making sure that we had enough people to go into the homes. But thankfully, I have a phenomenal team. So my team within the office became caregivers. I became a caregiver at some point. And we really had to reassure our caregivers that they were appreciated because they were putting their lives in the line, at risk. So we beefed up our PPE and we made sure that they had all the tools necessary to remain in the homes and ensure that our participants continue to receive the care that they need and deserve. So luckily, I know a lot of businesses had to close their doors, but I'm grateful for the support that I had of PIDC. That was one line of funding that helped us be able to get the proper PPE that we needed to continue to service our participants.
Wow, Lisa, again, another dynamic story, and congratulations, 2013.
Thank you.
Yeah. And next, I'd like to have Bridget introduce herself.
Well, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Bridget Daniel Corbett. I'm the CEO of Wilco Electronic Systems. And a little bit unique from me and Lisa and Michael is that I'm actually a second generation CEO. So my father started Wilco back in the 70s as a cable company, a private cable company that was really one of the only service providers of television that really catered to underserved and really overlooked communities. And that was really our pride and joy for 40 years. We were the Black cable company that went into neighborhoods and provided those technologies, which at the time was cable TV, to those communities that those other providers just did not want to go into those neighborhoods. And over the course of 40 years, I came on board, and we've really been kind of at a reputational point of bringing new technologies, not just cable, but then internet, and then all these other different types of tech that needed to go into communities that they just didn't have either the affordability or they just didn't have those types of resources. So it's been an interesting ride. I think business is very up and down. So like Mia, mentioned, there was a 2008 bubbles and the internet bubbles, and now we're, kind of getting out of COVID. And what we were been able to do, because as we were really wiring for cable, we were wiring for all these other types of services like access and security sit cameras and security access control. And that wasn't even a part of the business that I was, really involved in. But after we had a sale of our cable division to Comcast right before the pandemic, we started really pivoting into new technologies that were around low voltage, that really were around new types of access. So what COVID did, because everybody had to pause and kind of reevaluate and recalibrate their businesses, we had the same opportunity to sit back and say, how do we continue our business when we go to sites all the time, when we need to be in people's homes? And what we did was we created a new line of low voltage design services, because that's kind of something that's a gap in the industry. So we're able to now design these wiring infrastructures and these wiring systems. But for COVID, we wouldn't have the time to even really look at that as a line of just new opportunity. So for us, COVID allowed me to reinvent Wilco. It allowed us to continue our business as an essential business. We were designated, so we were allowed to still be out and about during those early days of the pandemic. But we really were now being sought after for providing those services that were remote, that were touchless, and that were all digitally based. So telemedicine, different types of like low technology hand touching for access. And I think that created an opportunity for us. So for many people, the pandemic was probably one of the worst things that could happen to us. But for those, and I think Mia mentioned a lot, for those that were able to look, course correct, and pivot, you were able to find a new way of growing your business. And that's what we were able to do. And we're really excited for that new direction. And the opportunities that came from the pandemic, such as just the racial kind of equities that needed to now be realigned across industries. So we are excited to really be take advantage and leverage those opportunities. And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more throughout the panel.
We will. Thank you, Bridget. And Michael Brown.
Hi,
Welcome.
everyone. So I'm Mike Brown, the president and CEO of the 360 group of companies, proud member of cohort 1 for 10KSB. So a little bit about our business. So we started in 2010. So we started right after the housing, debacle, call it that. And I would probably be the only dumb person to start a union construction company during that time. But there was only one way to go, and that was up, because everything was down. So started the company as a actual union sheet metal contractor, and then quickly evolved into a mechanical, electrical, and plumbing contractor. Found out that we were, and most people wouldn't admit this, we were bad labor managers, because none of us were union, but we were really good engineers. So we ended up becoming a design build construction firm. We grew 1,907% in our first 3 years. And if it wasn't for PIDC and Colette DeCellis Lee from United Bank, we probably would have fell because of our growth being too accelerated. So with that said, continue to grow, then hit our bumps and bruises, as most companies do. And you'll hear this from all the owners. It's not, if it's all good, you sold the company real fast and got out, because if you're in for the long haul, you're going to have definitely peaks and valleys. So when COVID hit, which is really interesting, we started really understanding like who we were as a company, and someone once told us, hey, you have enough tools in your company to be program managers and provide solutions to really high-end clients. And I was like, well, what like high-end client, like what? And they were like FEMA. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like, what is FEMA? What was a small little company in Philadelphia going to teach FEMA, right? And you'd be surprised what small companies can teach large companies and large organizations. So COVID hit, and you'll hear a lot of this. It kind of hit the reset button. The best thing that happened to us during COVID is everybody stayed home. We never stayed home. We went to work every single day. When COVID hit, it stopped everything around us, slowed everything down, allowed us to really evaluate the business. You got some help from the government. So you had, instead of using that PPP money to go on vacation, we used that PPP money to start doubling down and hiring people that were laid off. And most importantly, back to this program management, we're like, well, we're really good designers, so why don't we just go design a sterilization initiative for the state of Pennsylvania? So we ended up doing that. It's so funny. Here I'm a mechanical engineer talking about cleaning, but what we did was we partnered with a lot of really good cleaning companies, and we just kind of managed all the technology behind making them efficient. Significantly grew the business. Then really got a lot of kudos with the feds. So got us working in Puerto Rico and all different kinds of areas. So, now we're hitting our second, round of growth, which we'll talk about funding later on and how fun that is. But, really happy with what I learned with the Goldman Sachs program, and that I had a lot of good help in Philadelphia to get to where I'm at.
Wow. As you can hear, 4 very dynamic business owners that are owning up to the fact that being in business is a challenge and an opportunity. And when challenges hit, such as the pandemic, that they rode it through, they looked for opportunities, and they focused on growth. So let's take a look at another set of questions. And it was really great to hear the background from everyone. Now I'm going to focus on Mia and Bridget and ask them a question about technology and resources. So given that in our current economy, there are opportunities for growth, what technological tools and resources do you feel are critical in boosting growth in our current economy. And Bridget, I'm going to start with you and then I'll go to Mia.
Sure. So what we were able to do was really double down on prop tech. And what prop tech is, it's basically property technology. And you may also see, prop tech as commercial tech. You may also see it as real estate tech, retail tech. It's really applying information technology and platform technology to the real estate market. And because we are a security provider and because we are an access control provider, all those things really navigate and manage how people enter and exit buildings, and also how they manage and operate their homes through smart technology, like people know Ring, and people know like different thermostats like Nest. All those things are basically part of the prop tech family. And I don't think prior to the pandemic, prop tech had its time to shine. But when everybody's at home or cannot get to their office, prop tech became the bridge to really be where you needed to be, right? It really allowed people to be at home, make sure their home was what they wanted to, make sure their home was more automated. And it allowed people to still stay in contact with their offices or enter offices or close down their offices or manage their offices, all from clicks of your phone or really anywhere in the world, because people were traveling all around, people scattered, right? People scattered to where they needed to be, but they didn't necessarily need to be at home or be at their office. So prop tech is what we doubled down on. And I think for us, that was kind of our white flag. It was our shining moment to say, we are a minority-owned business that operates in the prop tech community. That's not that many of us that look like us that do that. And then, of course, then the engineering of low voltage design then started kind of overlap on that. So it's been a kind of a stacking approach to the digital tools that we needed. But anything, I think what COVID really, solved for all of us was that technology was really not just a luxury, or internet wasn't a luxury. It was really a necessity of how we shopped, how we went to stores, how we were able to get food, get jobs, get education still in your quarantined moment. And so any kind of digital tools, Zoom, Calendly, all those things that kept our team together were critical. Mia can probably speak much more eloquently to those tools because she probably uses them even before the pandemic, but we definitely doubled down on that. But for our business and the need for our customers to see how, and our clients to see how important that these things that are very, very taken advantage, people don't think of access control and security as something that's high tech. It's one of probably the most overlooked industries in technology, but it's so critical. And it's becoming so much more ingrained in what we do because now it's monitored and used by this mobile phone that everybody almost in the world has. So that's been an area of growth that we see developing. Even for Lisa's business, telemedicine has become a part of our service offerings because telemedicine absolutely had its shining moment during COVID. For a while, it was very stifled, and now everyone had to still get healthcare. And that, again, is another technology going into the home. So whether it's sensors, whether it's ways that you can still monitor people's movements, all that's prop tech. All that is how your building or your home is managed. So it's a really interesting time. It's still in its infancy. We haven't even reached the apex of this movement, but it's definitely one that we see we're going to be a part of, and we're very excited for where it's going.
Wow. Wow, that is exciting. And the fact that you're really identifying for us, that technology is absolutely critical on a personal level and a business level. Thank you, Bridget. Mia.
Thank you, Bridget. That was for giving that high level overview and just the importance of how technology has integrated all of our lives through the pandemic and quarantining, and then just the importance of keeping an eye on that security and what that means for people. So I'll talk a little bit more about the tools and resources from a business perspective that were really crucial to us during the pandemic and this latest time of pivot. So again, you're correct, Bridget. We were using a lot of these tools already, although I mentioned where we were an agency with an office, we always provided our employees flexible time to be able to work remotely, choose a remote day or work remotely if they needed to, if they had an issue, whatever. So we had all of the tools that have become very common vernacular for most people now. We were already using Zoom and Slack and relying on technology to help us run our business remotely and to communicate with clients who maybe aren't in the Philadelphia area. And I think all of those tools have become just part of what people use now. I wanted to mention one other tool that is really important to me, which is to help navigate sort of the overwhelm of how being online and technology has really just almost stifled our ability to not be working, to not be focusing on meetings and jumping from Zoom to Zoom. And so I've tried to implement sort of like a mindful meeting approach, because you still, as a business owner, you have to get your work done. You have to, as you say in 10KSB, you've got to work on your business. You have to be working on it, just not in it. So in order to do that, we've always had project management software, the ability to like manage our projects, manage our time, but I also implemented strategies for approaches to meetings. So blocking off time where I don't meet. So I use a calendaring tool. Calendly is the one I use. It allows me to send a link to people, have them schedule a time that I've predefined when I'm available. And I'm not available 24/7. I am available to work when I have projects I'm working on. And so I think the flexibility to meet with people can also be just, we're overwhelmed by the technology. So I'm almost here to like pull back a little bit from that and to take an approach where people remember to give themselves the time to not be overwhelmed by the technology. It sounds a little counterproductive, but in thinking about this meeting today and wondering like, okay, how overwhelmed are people by the Zoom meetings, by the panels, and what can we do to make it a valuable time? And for me, sometimes time means taking that time, blocking off the time, working on your business. So I just wanted to mention that. It's been very helpful too in trying to have that like a retrospective approach. So as we're coming out of this time of the pandemic, I think for me, thinking about the places where I have made improvements from going through previous business challenges, the ups and downs, and figuring out what I can put in place now that will help potentially for a future crisis. And some of that is taking that time to spend on the business and looking at like gaps in either support. Do I have a contact at PIDC? Maybe I don't need that now, but what if I reach out to them and I have a brief conversation and I start building some of those relationships? So I think that is another resource for me during this time, which I'll talk about a little bit more, is just the community, business community, resource community, and having the ability to get information quickly, especially during the pandemic. I saw how beneficial it was for me to have those relationships in place, from my ability to get the PPP loan so quickly. And I saw friends and colleagues with businesses struggling to find support. During that crisis, it wasn't possible to suddenly make a business relationship with your bank if you didn't have that in place. So what saved me during that time, one of the biggest resources, and definitely was through technology that I was able to stay informed, were my colleagues and friends at 10KSB, who led me in the direction of being able to find and get a PPP loan quickly. To the other, I'm in a women CEO organization. It's called We the Change. It's part of the B Corp community. So those resources. I'm also a member of the local LGBTQ chamber and a member of the the Sustainable Business Network. So I think if you have a moment to breathe and you can start joining organizations, making relationships, meeting people, that is a crucial resource to have. Even if you're just in a Slack channel for one of these communities, or if you are in some sort of, you have a group chat, some sort of way that you're getting that information. It doesn't have to take a lot of your time to read through, but I found those resources to be just completely, they really saved our business. And I saw friends struggling who didn't have that. And I tried to lead them toward, industry related communities, something that could really give you that support, because we all go through times when business is really difficult. It's really challenging, whether it's a global crisis or you've lost a contract or whatever that case may be, that you start building that foundation that you have to rely on.
Great. Well, yeah, Mia, I love how you're introducing this whole concept of relationships and communication as a critical technology. And so it doesn't always have to have a cable as part of it. And that is part of what really brings this whole panel together, this whole collaborative of organizations that are dedicated towards helping businesses thrive. So Bridget and Mia, thank you for sharing your thoughts on the technology side. Let's now take a look at funding. And so I'm going to ask Michael and Lisa, what strategies do you suggest for funding your business in the recovering economy? And Lisa, I'm going to ask you to go first, and then we'll get some feedback from Michael. Lisa.
Thank you, Fran. So I have to say that the pandemic was very difficult. It was scary for a lot of people. There are a lot of deaths around the world. My Independence at Home actually lost a number of people to COVID, which was very difficult. So to use the term everybody else is using, we had to pivot. And I have to say that as a minority-owned business, one of the biggest challenges that I've faced over the past 9 years has been access to capital. So it's very interesting that during the pandemic, we received more capital than I've ever received in the 9 years almost that I've been in business. So I say that to say I firmly believe that crisis can breed opportunity. And I think that's what it did for us. We applied for everything we possibly could. We received the PPP loan. We received a loan from PIDC, the SBA. So we applied for everything we possibly could. And it was just amazing that, but for the pandemic, we would never have had the opportunity for the amount of money that we received. So it was a little disheartening because I'm sure that my colleagues here can attest to the fact that it's hard often to get funding and access to capital in the traditional sense. So I found myself taking money from predatory lenders, and but for PIDC, I would still probably be under their thumb. So just taking advantage of the opportunities that are out here, not overshadowing the fact that the pandemic was horrible, that we're still in it, we're still struggling, but positioning yourself to apply for whatever you can. And I'd like to piggyback also off of Mia in the fact that she talks about relationships. I'm a member of a number of industry related coalitions. And during the height of the pandemic, we were able to talk to one another, see what challenges they were having, help one another out. And it was good to bounce those ideas off of one another. And I recently formed a coalition myself, a coalition of minority providers, because I saw that there was a gap in access. There was a gap in access to information. And I'm often called for resources and advice. And I said, you know what, there's strength in numbers. We all need a seat at the table. We're not asking for a handout. We're just asking for the same opportunities that our colleagues have. So excited about the coalition. And yeah, I would just say, apply for everything you can. Like I said, crisis breeds opportunity.
Absolutely, Lisa. And congratulations on starting the coalition. I mean,
Thank you.
again, it builds into and feeds into the concept that access to information, access to support is a resource that is as lucrative and helps your business grow as money does. Thank you, Lisa. Mike,
You're welcome.
your thoughts?
Great. So I'm not going to repeat too much of what Lisa said because she's 100% right. If you're not out there getting free money, then, you know, that it's like a pot of gold. There was a pot of gold under every tree at one point in time. But I'll talk a little bit about other strategies when it comes to funding and piggyback off of what was just said. So I was asked to go run a task force for the Deputy Secretary of the state of Pennsylvania. And no one wanted to work at that time. So I was like, oh, I'll do the meeting minutes. I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this, I'll do that. And ultimately what that allowed us to do is get funding for our clients for projects. So which was great. We were getting funding for the state of Pennsylvania from FEMA. We were getting money from here, from there, which allowed us to build contracts. But one of the things that we definitely did is we didn't do it for ourselves. We did it for other small businesses. We put about 84 people to work, about 17 small businesses, and got them through the pandemic. And it was more of anything because we were asked to help. And that's just, you know, what you do, because when I needed help, people came and helped me. So it was my turn to do that. Now, to the funding side, I'll say this. You got to know your financial statements. I was an engineer. I didn't know anything about financial statements. I was forced to go get my MBA against my will. I got it. And when I got it, I said, oh my God, what the hell have I been doing my whole life? Right. And yeah, you have to know your income statement, your balance sheet. It's kind of like what makes your business pretty on the outside, right? Before anyone can even peek in on the inside. So I would definitely suggest that. The next thing is you have to roll with the punches. So in 3 days, so we got the PPP loan, we got the emergency, the EIDL loan. We took the EIDL loan in 30 years at 3.75% and paid off a 25% predatory lending $1 million note that we negotiated down to $200,000, right? We were hustling. I mean, every chance we got, we took our debt load from $5.5 million to a little bit over $2 million. We're about a $20 million company, so $2 million, we have that just so that we can have relationships. It's not, it's almost like having zero debt at this point, except for PIDC. They want their money back. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But you know, it's very important that not just in running your business and whatever makes your business, whether it be low voltage, whether it be telemedicine, whether it be, you know, doing IT work, you have to pay just as much money as how you feed the business, right? So your loans are the gas that you have in the gas tank. It's your ability to get the next large contract. You have to understand the difference between long-term debt and short-term debt, lines of credit versus long and drawn out 10, 20-year notes, and how you use that money. Short-term debt can grow your business really fast. Long-term debt can build up all your resources over time. There are convertible equity notes that are out there. That's one of the most beautiful products that can exist, right? What that is, somebody gives you $5 million, but at the end of the 5 years, you either converts to equity or you can pay it off as debt. That means that for 5 years, you don't make any payments on that money. So as long as you have a really good business plan that can take care of, you know, of that debt facility, you're good. And I'll leave you with this. One thing you should always be thinking about, and be honest with yourself, is if somebody gave you $10 million, would you know what to do with it? If I said, I'm going to give you $10 million and in 5 years, I want $12 million back. And if you don't give me my $12 million back, I'm taking everything you own. Could you put the 10 million to work? If you can't put the 10 million to work, don't ask for 10 million. If you can't put 1 million to work, don't ask for 1 million. If you can't put 5,000 to work, don't ask for 5,000, but be honest with yourself. Get your business to where it can be leveraged up, or you're going to make the mistake that many of us do, and that's leverage down, right? Where you don't just grow your business real fast, but then you find a way to run it into the ground by taking too much money and not knowing what to do with it. So that's all the advice I have on funding.
Wow. Well, I heard a lot of things. And one of the things you opened up with, Michael, was the whole concept of helping others, using your knowledge to help others as you helped your business. And that's a powerful concept. It really piggybacks on what Mia was saying around the relationships. The second is this whole knowing your numbers and taking advantage of the relationships, the financial relationships that are out there so that you can negotiate for what is appropriate as you grow your business. And again, it's really exciting for those of you that may have just joined us. On our panel today are alumni from the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. And I'm just going to share with you that we have a range of cohorts. Michael Brown graduated from cohort 1, so that was in 2013. Bridget Daniel Corbin graduated in cohort 5. Mia Levesque graduated in cohort 27, and Lisa Robinson graduated in cohort 21. And we've just now at the 10,000 Small Businesses program graduated cohort 26. So 10,000 Small Businesses is a business education program. It is free. It is funded by the Goldman Sachs Foundation. And in 14 weeks, and I'll borrow a quote that I once heard from an alum, while you can get an MBA that teaches you how to run someone else's business, the Goldman Sachs program teaches you how to run your own business. And with concepts like negotiations, understanding financial forecasts, the power of community and peer learning, being able to identify what your leadership skills are, understanding how to leverage your team, and really using technology and advocacy to help systematize your business. They're all powerful skills, and you can see how these alumni have leveraged that to help them grow their business in a recovering economy. So let's move from technology and funding to strategies around leveraging government and private resources during this recovery period. And we heard a little bit of that from Lisa and Michael. I'm now going to ask Mia to start off, and then Bridget to touch on that, and just to manage time to, let's give and I'm going to give the listeners a tip. In 10KSB, we talk about EEC, effective, efficient, and compelling. So in an EEC manner, Mia, I'm going to have you start off. What are, in your experience, some best strategies to leverage government and private resources during this recovery period?
Thank you, Fran. So I'm going to again talk about personal relationships and the benefit of trying to develop these relationships maybe during periods of more calm, so that when you do reach a moment of crisis, whether in your business or globally, that you have some of these support. And I really admire Lisa and Michael for sharing their expertise with other communities, building coalitions, helping other small businesses. And I just want to do a quick plug for being vulnerable in your business and finding these communities, whether it's, again, I mentioned like Women CEO organization I belong to, the LGBTQ chamber. There are many organizations that will help you find your community and find those resources. And the ability to be vulnerable with other business owners allows you to get support that you need sometimes. So if you need, maybe you don't have any opportunity to figure out where you're going to find resources for money. People are talking about PPP. You don't really understand it. You feel kind of vulnerable. You don't want to ask. You can reach out to people who are offering their expertise and their support. It can maybe give you a shortcut to those relationships. So maybe you don't have a banking relationship. maybe you don't quite understand how PIDC can help you. If you reach out to somebody in your business community, if you reach out to a peer and they can make an introduction to you, they can say, I use this community bank and here's my contact, that you can start building a foundation of these support mechanisms that will then help you to find the resources that you need. Again, I found a very quick way to get a PPP. Once I realized that that's the direction we were heading in, we didn't go for the first cycle because as a tech business, we did have, we still had some work. I saw people pulling back on projects. It was a very unknown time, and and those communities really helped me to leverage the resources for finding, government support and local support. And so that would be, again, back to relationships, and you can use technology to help you manage those relationships, manage your time. And I just think that's really just valuable information that I learned from 10KSB and from going through these challenges.
Thank you, Mia. Bridget, your thoughts?
So definitely, very quickly, we leverage PPP. And what we really realized, and I think everybody's saying it, is that the relationship was key. I think people take for granted your banking relationships, but if you didn't have a relationship with your bank, then you were not getting a first round PPP funding, period. And we did not know that until we realized we could call our banker on their cell phone and say, what's up with this application? And I think that's where a lot of businesses really saw the gap if you did not have that kind of financial relationship. So the financial relationship with banking was critical. My father had that relationship, and then I picked it up prior to the COVID pandemic. But had I not done that, it would have just been a different scenario for us. So that was one thing. We became a first-time PIDC client during COVID, right? Which was critical. We applied for a Restart PHL loan that came right on time, because as we were, like I said before, we were in these new kind of opportunities. We were in this new business. We were doing low voltage design. We needed to hire people. We needed to buy trucks. We needed to buy market. We needed to buy and still capitalize our business. But for that Restart loan, it would have been a different scenario for us, because during the time of COVID, my father passed away. And that happened around maybe about a year ago, last year. So he was around for 2020. He passed away in 2021. Luckily, we put so much in place during COVID. COVID allowed my whole family to step back and look at our business, but it also allowed us to strategize internally. I wasn't going to meetings. I wasn't going off to conferences. I was in our office, sitting with our founder, strategizing about how we keep our business going. Even past, even post an acquisition and a new direction of our business. So, we lost a line of credit, but then we gained a line of credit, so it was just very, very interesting how life and our business kind of matured. But again, the banking relationships were key. We got a Montgomery County loan of business that they were offering grants. So we were able to double down with that opportunity. Again, that was all relationship driven, because if you weren't relationship driven, we weren't even getting the first round. So there was so much that we had to kind of network for. And we were really kind of strategically put in place for, and leveraging relationships that my father had 40 years ago with new relationships that I began in the last 5-6 years. But I think anytime you're getting with government, and anytime we're in this kind of scenario where everyone needs funding, it's all about who you know and how you can really position your business to not just get it, but be kind of first in line to receive those types of resources. And I think that's what any business should now be working on, because something may come up again where you're going to need that type of help and assistance. And you don't want to be behind. You want to be right on step with it. So that was very helpful for us.
Thank you, Bridget. And again, I do remember visiting your office when you were at 10KSB. It's part of the site visit, and sitting down with you and your father and just being in awe of the legacy and the relationship that you had with your father to understand the business and be a daughter and be an owner,
Yeah.
and to learn and question, and then to say, well, how can I do things differently?
Right.
So it's just really powerful to see you here today sharing your experiences and talking. The word relationship takes on an additional meaning
Absolutely.
in a family-owned business. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So as we begin to wrap up the panel, I'd like to ask Lisa and Michael a question around lessons learned. And I hope that all of you that are attending have been taking some notes and have some questions, because once I finish this series of questions, I'm going to open it up to you so that you can ask questions of the panelists. So Michael, I'm going to start with you. This is a broad question. Again,
Mhm,
the EC principle applies.
mhm.
What have you learned over the last 24 months with regard to marketing your business to new clients? And you've given us some kind of cookie crumbs on that high level. And you've been busy. I heard you use the word
Mhm,
hustle.
mhm,
You have been doing the professional version of hustling. So
mhm.
lessons learned around marketing.
So again, I'm going to start by giving another shout out here. So when we were working with those the small businesses to do work at the Capitol, we needed a marketing company. So we hired Slice Communications, and then Tierney as our PR firm. But Slice did such a great job. The issue is this: is that now everything has to be online. Your websites have to be dynamic. You have to know how to reach your target audience. Um, as a business owner, you're not going to be great at everything, right? I'm an engineer, so I can draw, I can nothing. That's what, instead of an architect, there's nothing creative about me when it comes to that, right? So you sometimes have to bring other people in. If you can't afford a marketing firm right out of the gate, then go find a marketing, intern or something, bring them into your firm. And then the next thing is, utilize, we have such a tremendous opportunity now to reach out to people. Everybody's used to using Zoom or Teams or something like that. So setting up meetings with people is easier than it ever has been. The only thing I would also recommend is that you still don't use Teams to get away from the face-to-face meetings, because they're important just as well to make connections. But those back in the day, we used to have to go visit all these contracting officers on the federal side, or all the purchasing agents from all the Fortune 500 companies. Now it's like we can do 10 of them in one day with one Zoom call. So take advantage of all the technology, and make sure you have a good IT company as well.
Wow, very EEC. I wasn't prepared to unmute my mic. Love it. Love it. So, Lisa, lessons learned over the last 24 months with regard to
Lessons,
marketing.
yes, with regard to marketing. I think I'm opposite of Michael. We're not big on technology. I think it's just the nature of our business. So I have learned that our approach to marketing, being in the community, meeting with them one-on-one, holding lunch and learns, sharing my story, the fact that I'm a stroke survivor and I'm a veteran, it resonates with a lot of people that I'm speaking to. So I think it's just, for me, the old school boots on the ground in the community, handing out free lunches, having health fairs, which is what we're preparing for now. We're going to have 7 block parties throughout the city that are free to the community, with bouncy games and free lunch and face painting. For me, I've learned that works for us. I've gone the route that Michael's taken with commercials, and the only people that were calling me who saw me on cable were my friends and family. I'm like, I don't want to hear from you. I want to hear from people that want our services. So it was a lot of money, and the money that I'm spending is much more spent, and I'm getting a greater return. Right now, I have more than 200 employees. We're taking care of almost 160 people right now. I mean, as we speak right now, I'm taking care of people in their homes, and there's nothing better than that.
Powerful, powerful. Well, the diversity of panelists, the perspectives, the opportunity to share how, within your industry, you have found, whether it's marketing or technology or funding, the importance of relationships, the importance of resources, the importance of understanding your business and your client, and then being aware of the environment around you so that when there are challenges, you can duck, you can hustle, you can pivot, and you can recover. Very, very exciting. Again, I want to thank our sponsors for helping to make sure that this was available. I'd like to open, I'm going to check the chat. In essence, open the microphones and see who has questions. So there is a Q&A section. I'm going to ask you to put your question in the chat. You can either do so as an anonymous attendee, or you can identify that. And I'm going to read them out and then ask the panelists to respond. So here's a question. Oh, this is a setup. I mean, Goldman Sachs, 10,000 small businesses. Okay, so the question is, what impact has the Goldman Sachs program specifically had on your business? I'm not too familiar with the program, so I'm just trying to understand a little bit more. Okay, I love that. I think as the executive director of the 10,000 Small Businesses Program at Community College of Philadelphia, I insist that each panelist answer that. So, impact of the 10KSP program. Lisa, you were the last to speak. I'd love you to be the first to speak on this one.
So the impact that 10KSB had on me was pretty amazing. I thought I knew what I was doing in my business. And when I got to 10KSB, I was kind of skeptical, like, what is this thing all about, And for me, it just reinforced that I do know what I'm doing, but then showed me where I needed to tweak a little bit. Damon Gamble was very impactful. I actually fired my accountant after 10KSB, even though he told us not to do that, and I hired him. So he's been my accountant now since I graduated 10KSB. And also, I hired a contractor to my kitchen. and just, I have friends from 10KSB. So it was not just the professional business side, but it's the relationship, the lifelong relationships that I know I will have, from here until I'm no longer. So it's just a phenomenal opportunity. If you haven't gone through it, I would implore you to do so. Fran is amazing. Everybody that steps before you they're going to push you out of your comfort zone. I don't mind talking. Some people get really nervous, but it really pushes you to get out of your comfort zone and to really go back and think about how you're running your business, because I had notes for days, and I was always super excited when I left the room and I'd go back to my team. This is what I learned today. Da, 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 da. So, okay, that's all I have to say.
That's terrific, terrific. And I'm sure that Gideon will, our outreach director, will put the information in the chat on where you can apply. Thank you, Lisa. Very powerful impact. What I hear you saying, the curriculum, the faculty, the relationships with the peer business owners, and the fact that you had confidence that you did know what you were doing, and an opportunity to learn ways to tweak your business and manage your business even more effectively. Thank you. Bridget.
So, like Lisa, 10K was amazing for us as well. We were deep dived into our cable and internet service providing at the time. So for me, it allowed me to be EEC, deep down into our financial, look at how we can market and rebrand, and then strategize for a new growth plan that we ended up implementing shortly after our cohort ended, which were very successful at the time. What I would love is a 10KSB refresher. I don't know if that's available, but I think because what it does is really allow business owners to hone in and really deep dive into what you are, who you are, why you are, and how you want to be. I think particularly after COVID, it's such a program that if anyone is at that that point of progression, you would want to be a cohort, at least a 10 KSB, participant. It's one of those turning points for your business. And particularly how we've all kind of gone and navigated through pandemic, it'd be great to even have refreshers going forward. So that's my plug to 10 KSB, to have, continuing ed classes per se. But if anyone is on that brink of thinking to join, it's a no-brainer to do that. It's priceless, and it will totally help you really, really scale and look at your business in a way that you haven't probably been able to do so for thus far.
Thanks, Bridget. Now, you mentioned the growth plan. I'm just going to probe a little bit more for someone that might not be familiar with that concept. What was it, and why did that have an impact on your business?
So our growth plan was about scaling affordable internet services to our current client base and also to other client bases. And I think at the time, there was still a lot of really looking at digital divide as an issue. It was kind of on the tail end of that kind of digital divide, just rise and need. So we were really trying to how do we scale affordable internet to places other than our current marketplace. And we had to really rely on partnerships to do that. So it just allowed us to really look at our partners that we had and reconnect with them in a way that we hadn't done in a long time, almost for a setup for future opportunities. Why I say the pandemic has kind of, really allowed us to really look at that again and say like, why a fresh would be great, is because at least for our growth plan, which was internet, and growth plan basically is all those, it's a plan that allows you to grow your business with using your current, set of services. But right now, the pandemic highlighted again the need for internet, and how those who didn't have it were almost kind of out of the life cycle of what you needed to really survive. And I think that was what we could have, I would love to have doubled down on that again, just because the pandemic highlighted the need for affordable internet. And again, it wasn't solved, right? It was still a very, very large gap. And I think that kind of growth plan would have been like perfect right now, again, to really look at and re-examine.
Great. Thank you, Bridget. Mia, impact of 10 KSB on your business.
I definitely, I want to echo what Mike said about not being able to do it all as a business owner. And I think at times it's difficult to figure out what you're not doing well, because you don't know. So, I have a degree in French. I do not have a degree in business. I fell into technology. Just echoing what Bridget was saying, I fell into the internet and technology from an activist perspective, and working on trying to level the playing field and using the internet to break down the digital divide for people who were shut out. So, just didn't have a very skilled business background. 10 KSB gave me the tools to figure out where I was lacking the skills, to gain more confidence, to learn those skills, or to hire the right people that would help me fill in the gaps, because you can't do it all, and you don't have to. And so not only did it help that and boosting my confidence, but the peer-to-peer learning allowed me also, as a technologist, to come in with my expertise and help people who didn't have those skills. So I think building, again, I'm going to mention community again, building community, meeting business owners from diverse businesses that you can not only maybe use their services to help your business, but also just the vast experience of the Philadelphia small business community. Really just, again, during the pandemic, was really crucial to helping us navigate, and also in helping people to be able to step up and say, well, this is what I can offer. Here's a way to, here's what you could do to improve your website, that you can pivot it. It's flexible. You can get messages out to people. You can, so I think, again, community, that ability to gain insight and knowledge, but also to share your expertise and to help other businesses.
Thank you, Mia. And Mike, cohort 1. I remember when you came in and overnight did a financial spreadsheet.
Yeah, that was great. So I'll tell you, I would talk for days about all the benefits, but I'm going to try to narrow it down to 3 major ones. I think the most impactful one was, and you'll get this from a lot of business owners that decide to go into the program, is that we're too busy to get into the program. We have so much going on. We're so busy. We're so busy. We're so busy. And then when you get in there, you see everybody's just as busy as you are, right? And you actually get the first time ever to stop and take a look kind of from a 10,000 foot view. And that is just so important. Like, it's to the point where we kind of do that now, like on the regular, just kind of slow everything down, take a retreat, slow the business, then restart back up, or you'll just keep making the same mistakes over and over again. So that's number one. Number two, the networking. So like right now I'm doing the school district of Philadelphia. I go and look at the architect. It's Maury. He was in my cohort. He was in my team. I'm like, how does this happen? I have to go do a job down in Miami. Can't find a contractor to help me in Miami. Call one of the cohort members of the Miami cohort. They find somebody right away. I mean, it's just incredible. The network is, and it's such a tight niche network. The last thing I'm going to talk about is this growth plan. All right. This is my MBA. So business plan, you have to have that to kind of give you a direction in your business. You do it the first time you're about to go into business and you tweak it over time, but it's all big picture, right? The growth plan takes an idea, turns it into an opportunity, and then tells you whether the opportunity is going to be successful or not. We've spent weeks on growth plans to find out it wasn't a good opportunity. It saved us millions of dollars. We spent weeks on growth plans that turned out to be great opportunities. How many times do you hear somebody say, oh, I got this great idea. I'm going to find a cure for COVID. I mean, whatever it is, it's once you start trying to figure out whether it's realistic or not, you start going, oh man, how much is it going to cost to do this? What resources do I need? Do we have the capabilities? So I think that the growth plan was so innovative. It was so creative on how it worked, and I applaud Goldman and Babson for coming up with that, and community college for delivering it. That we kind of understood it, and any of the business owners, anybody in the 10KSB program, it's so cool because when you meet them, you can start. The first question you have is, "What was your growth plan on?" Right? So, and then if you're in an earlier cohort, did it work? Or did it not work, right? So for anyone that's thinking about the program, it is transformational. So I would suggest that you at least look into it and don't think you don't have enough time, because for most of us, I own 7 businesses now and I would do it again. I'd take that refresher course tomorrow if it was open.
And Mike, when you started, how many businesses did you have?
You have
now. You have one.
I had one.
So you in fact did learn how to grow your business.
Oh, yeah.
Businesses.
I went from ECSI to the 360 group of companies, which are all, well, 6 of the 7 are multi-million-dollar, well, more than $1 million. So we did something right. It's so funny. I think I took the growth plan and made it into its own little separate businesses instead of, now I got to figure out how to pull them all back together, but that's a whole nother story.
I love the energy. Whomever put that question in the chat, in the Q&A, perfect question. And I noticed that we, again, have a lot of attendees on the line. Some of you might not have been here when we started. So I wanted to just take a few moments to circle back. And yes, team, this is not in the agenda, to circle back and give each of our sponsors a minute or two to say why they're sponsoring this particular series, the one today and the one on June the 7th. And I'd like to start with Chuck Stefanowski.
Thanks, Fran. I really enjoyed the event today. I hope all of you did. And I think really the reason why we sponsored the event is really what Michael just talked about. It's just the enthusiasm in his voice, and Lisa, Bridget, Mia, all the panelists talking about the networking, just like really what you're getting out of the program and making an impact. It sounds like you're all making some like really great contacts and really moving your businesses forward. Michael, when you mentioned that you took on some additional work and you went to Miami and you found someone in the cohort to support you, that's awesome. That's like really like networking in action. Many of you that may know me know that I'm really, really passionate about networking and about making intentional impacts and connections. And it sounds like that's really what the Goldman Sachs program is all about. And I got to tell you, I didn't know much about it until I met Marla and Fran and the rest of the team. And I got to tell you, every time Fran talks about it, her eyes light up, and Marla and everybody else, and it just gets you. It got me excited. I don't even own a business, you know, and what I think really is a lot of value too to the business community is, you know, I led procurement for almost 20 years at Independence. Now I lead their supplier diversity program, and I often get questions from businesses about what they should do to grow their business or to market or sell their business. And I've never owned a business, so I'm not the right person to ask that question to. I'm the person that can tell you how to network and connect with anchor institutions. But as far as giving solid advice about how to grow a business and what to do and what not to do, it looks like Goldman Sachs is a great place to be. So I'm really thankful that that program's out there and that PIDC is out there, because I really think that those pieces are needed to help businesses in our region and beyond. So thanks, Franny.
Thank you, Chuck. And again, Chuck, you are the, if you'll give your title again, so folks, and I'm also going to have you put that in the chat.
Yeah, I'm the Director of Supplier Diversity for Independence Blue Cross, located obviously in Philadelphia.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you. And next, I'm going to have Sharon Manker introduce herself or reintroduce herself and share why she is involved as a sponsor in this program.
Hello, I am Sharon Manker. I am the manager of diverse supplier initiatives for AmeriHealth Caritas. So I support about 13 different states and many new markets. And so what I enjoyed about the program, and the reason why I knew it was going to be successful, is because I always think if I knew then what I know now, I would have done it differently. When I was younger, I had a business and I closed it because it's just like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. But at the time I was working in supply chain. So I got to learn so much about how to connect, how to network, and didn't know anything about Goldman Sachs. But now I preach to the choir of suppliers, get involved, learn how to grow what you already have. And so I could relate to all of the speakers. So I was in the chat, I was writing to Mia in French, like, I speak French. I studied there in my undergrad. I could relate to Bridget because I grew up in West Philly. We had that cable. I was like, oh, childhood memories. Lisa, I am a Philly resident, so I hear about the block parties coming. I hear from people in the community, so keep up the good work. Michael, I mean, how many businesses can you have? You are my idol. Okay, we got to talk. So I am here to make sure that AmeriHealth Caritas has your back, right? I want you to know that we have your back and making sure you know that we care about all the communities where we live, work, and serve. The support that we give is to make sure you have that access to information, opportunities, and capital. And so I'm honored to be able to do that in my day-to-day job. And I look forward to connecting and partnering with you all in the future.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Kenyatta, I'd love for you to introduce the audience to your organization and how you help small businesses.
Absolutely. So I'm Kenyatta James. I'm the director of Philadelphia Anchors for Growth and Equity, our PAGE, which is a program of the Economy League. And our job is to help small businesses, mid-sized businesses, but mainly local businesses with a special focus on diverse businesses, work with the large institutions in the city, mainly the hospitals and colleges, but also some of the large corporations like Independence Blue Cross. I'm, I think, very similar to Sharon. I ran a business for a good while, and that's kind of how I learned how to navigate the supplier diversity world. I did some work with the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, did some work with the city, worked with anchors outside of the city. And being in this role, like as soon as I started working at the Economy League, I was like, oh, that's how that works. That's why I didn't get this call back. That's how these decisions are made. It's really tough when you're a business owner and you don't know exactly what's happening on the other end. because institutions just buy stuff completely differently than individuals or even mid-market or other businesses, right? Most of the time, your focus is, if I can meet the CEO of this business and make a good case for my product, then I can get a really good opportunity. Well, for an institution, it doesn't matter if you know the CEO of XYZ institution, right? If the supplier diversity people aren't interested, if the procurement people aren't interested, if those particular department heads aren't interested in your product, you can't get traction. And many times with other sorts of sales processes, you're selling to one person. With institutions, there's often a committee of people making the decision. And many times you only get to meet one or two out of maybe 4 or 5 people that are making a joint decision. So that creates a real difficulty for businesses that are trying to figure this out, especially if you don't have a lot of experience in this world. So I wanted to be that resource to help organizations bridge that gap of going from, selling to mid-market, selling to other small businesses. Maybe you're, B2C, but you have a B2B type of product and you're looking to get into that space. I wanted to make sure that everyone felt supported, that they knew what it took to make that transition, and that they understood how to position their business best, because I didn't. And I'm sure I lost contracts and opportunities because of it. And on the flip side, the work that I did with the Children's Hospital, that work lives today. It's a part of my resume. It's a part of my reputation in the city. The same thing with the work that I did with the city. I've still got bus tail ads and other things going out on the back of SEPTA buses right now that I can point to and say, like, this is my work, this is my company, these are the sorts of things that we did. And that makes an impact, right? So I think that it's really important that small businesses get these opportunities, because it does allow you to grow more effectively when you've done work with institutions. It just adds to your trust. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about being able to work on programs like this and make sure that people understand what we do and the resources that are out there. The other thing that I'm very passionate about is making sure that we have a strong network, so that when an organization's like, okay, I just had a great experience with 10K small businesses, I'm ready to take things to the next level, I have my growth plan. Part of that plan is I need to work with more institutions, or I need to do this or that. I want to diversify into the college space. There's someone that they can call to take that next step, right? I know I went through different programming when I was an entrepreneur, and it was great, but it didn't have like a natural connection in between point A and point B. So I would go through, inner city capital connections, and I'd be like, wow, I know so much more. I'm really ready to get capital. I'm really ready to grow. But there was no like next step, next phone call to here's how you then expand your opportunities. And I want to help create that infrastructure within the city. And I think everyone who is a co-sponsor here wants to help create that infrastructure within the city, because we all see that, we can all do a part. You know what I mean? I can help you reach a certain type of anchor institution so that you can potentially get some great contracts. But I don't have the capability to help you grow your business the way Goldman Sachs 10K small businesses can. And I don't have the capability to help you get funding the way PIDC can. So it's only by working together and making sure that we're passing information and relationships back and forth that we can help a business with every stage of growth. So that's what brings us here. And I'm going to share my information in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you, Kenyatta. And Arthur, I'd like for you to share the PIDC element and how that all came together. And if Marla is on the line, she might even share the kind of the birth story of this all coming together briefly, because there may be some people that didn't hear that earlier.
Sure. I think as a lot of people know, PIDC is it's a funder, right? So we are a CDFI that provides capital businesses. But like I said earlier, that's just not enough to really help the business grow. That is just one of the many tools you need to grow your business. And I think we all talked about like how, Wonders entering the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Smiles program the collective wisdom you can really tap into, so that you're not spinning your wheels, not making mistakes on your own. You're learning from other people. I think from your cohort is really just an amazing experience. And I'm not a business owner. I've never joined Goldman Sachs, but just hearing about these people's stories, that's what I'm observing. And just, yeah, it's growing your business without making mistakes that others have, that have made already. You kind of learn from other people's mistakes, or you can share your own mistakes with other people so that you can collectively, move forward together. And I think that's really the power of the network. Like Chuck was saying, I think, not just network in your local area, but other chapters in the United States. The Goldman Sachs in the United States is amazing to tap into. I don't know if Marla, did you want to share anything? Are you still there?
I am still here. Thank you, everyone. It is just wonderful to see everything come together, to be able to work with Independence, Blue Cross, with AmeriHealth Caritas, the Economy League, PIDC. As many of you know, we've been the capital partner with Goldman Sachs since we launched in January of 2013. And we recognize that so much more is needed with business owners than just financing. So like Mike said, you get $1 million, you get 10 million. Okay, what are you going to do with that? How are you going to show value? And to hear Mia and Bridget talk about and staying connected, I will tell you, you can never call us too much. There's never a question that you have that we won't try to answer. The best thing that happened, and I think Bridget and Mia and Mike were talking about this during the pandemic. If you didn't have a relationship with a banker trying to get the Paycheck Protection Program, you were lost, because banks were saying you're not a client, you're not a borrower, I don't work with you in business banking, even if you've been depositing in our bank for 15 or 20 years, we don't have that kind of relationship with you. So I would encourage you to stay connected with all of your networks, certainly with your lenders. Stay in contact with your lenders. So it's just been great to work with all of these organizations, introduce some of their vendors to 10KSB. And if you've been following the chat, some of the panelists are connecting with each other as a result of today. And so I think one of the things that you'll find, we're doing, PIDC works with the 10KSB staff before every application deadline. And so we've got a few information sessions coming up. We've got another panel coming in on June 7th. We're going to talk with them again about 10KSB and PIDC financing. But check PIDC's website. We're going to have a replay of today's event. So if you missed anything, you'll be able to catch it again. But make sure you're taking advantage of this kind of opportunity. And that's what you hear consistently. And that's the thing that has always attracted me to 10KSB. You can never, I think Mike said it, on a day-to-day basis, you think you don't have time to invest a chunk of your time into this. This is the opportunity that you can't afford to miss. And I think Bridget said it earlier, and I repeated it in here. It was a turning point for her in her business. And that's what you want. You want the opportunity that's going to make a difference. It's going to be a turning point. And so I just want to say, Chuck, thank you and your team for just brainstorming. And that's what we did. We just started brainstorming around this. And it takes a village, not only for those of us who are providers, but it takes us being inclusive of the whole network of businesses, of providers. And this is, I will say, this is just the first step of doing something like this. This network has to expand and expand, because the opportunities are there. We just have to make sure that we're coming together so we can start identifying them and certainly keep this kind of energy going.
Thank you, Marla. Wow. And I want to thank again the panelists, Mia Levesque, Lisa Robinson, Bridget Daniel Corbin, and Michael A. Brown. It's just wonderful seeing you again. Hearing your stories, they're always inspiring. I saw lots in the chat about folks who are like, wow, how'd you do it? Can I talk with you more? And as Marla identified, 10KSB alums continue to network. Their ears are always open for how can I connect with someone else? So here is that screen, that PowerPoint that shows their faces. You've got their contact information in the chat. Encourage you to connect. And I'm going to ask Arthur to show the next slide. We've been talking a lot about the power of 10KSB, and I just wanted to show you that our curriculum, it is a free 14-week program. It is designed to help you grow your business. It works on your business, and it has dynamic faculty and other business owners who are part of it. On the next slide, I'd like our outreach director, Gideon, to speak to how you can take action if in fact you are inspired by what you heard today. Gideon.
I'm inspired, Fran. I'm ready to join up, and I work for this place. So good morning, everyone. How are you? Thank you for taking time out of your day to attend this panel. I really enjoyed this, and I enjoy representing this organization. I'm responsible for recruiting and outreach for the 10KSB program. I'm in the middle of recruiting for our upcoming cohort 28, which will be the fall of this year. The application deadline is the 24th of May. That'll creep up on you pretty quickly. So what I want you to do is to apply for our program. You go online to 10ksbapply.com. You set up your own login and your own account, fill in the part 1 level of the application. And once you do that, you hit save, submit, it goes to me. And then I'm going to reach out to you and shepherd you through the entire application process. Now, I just clicked on the chat. I just put in my contact information. I'm also going to type this up real quick and kick it out to you in regards to, where you have to apply and these important dates. But it's critically important that you put in your application because I want to take this journey with you. I think we're all going to be heading in the right direction, which is to develop beautiful business that's going to inspire and be dynamic for the community as a whole. So keep me to my word. And I'm the only guy named Gideon in the entire building. I'm real easy to track down. So let's do that, please.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Gideon.
You're
I'm going to
welcome.
turn it back over to Arthur, our moderator.
Thanks, Fran, and thank you again for attending. Here's our contact information. You should also have in our chat. I think this was a really great event today. So I really hope you learned, a lot from our panelists. Thank you, panelists, for making the time, your precious time for your businesses today. And some of you, multiple businesses, you own multiple businesses. So thank you for making your time on your busy day for us and for sharing your stories, your ups and your downs, and really how the Goldman Sachs program helped you get to the next level. So thank you again. I'll also give a quick plug to our next event. So it is on June 7th, driving business growth in a recovering economy. So please join us on June 7th at 10 a.m. Our panelists will include Jeanette Harris from the Financial Integrity Resource Management Company, Lynn Thomas from EMSCO, Natasha Strother from the Strother Enterprises, and Picha Chang from Vault and Vine. So please register on our website, and I hope we'll see you there. And thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Bye, everyone.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Stay
Thank
healthy
you.
and safe, everybody. Be good.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.